All right, folks, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for your patience. We've got a lot of things going on here at UHD, as you all know, as students here and faculty and staff, always exciting things going on. So, of course, this is one of the exciting things that we do every year. So, again, my name is Jay Zambrano. I'm the Vice President for Advancement University Relations. And I have the privilege of working alongside President Blanchard and my esteemed colleagues here at UHD to put on these amazing and important events. And I can't stress to you, it's so great to see the students that are here in the room. And I hope you all spread the word. You all have your phones, text them. We still have some lunches. Tell your friends to come on out. But these events are so important because what I call them is the cheat notes. You all are in class right now. These folks that we're going to hear from today, they were in your shoes 5 years ago, you know, and now they're leaders in their industry and in the energy sector here in Houston, which we all know is a great sector to be a part of here in this wonderful city. And so again, they're going to tell you of what has worked for them, what hasn't, and so on. And so these are very rich conversations that I wish as a student 5 years ago, you know, in college, that I was a part of. So again, it's so great to see you all here. But as many of you all know, the President's Lecture Series brings together the university community to reflect on topics that are relevant and important to all that we serve. The University of Houston Downtown prides itself on being an institution where ideas and perspectives are welcomed and shared. Through these platforms, we create the opportunity for those in our campus community and the community at large to listen to and interact with leaders of industry and policymakers, as well as local and national experts, so that we are each better informed and equipped to take on the challenges of an ever-changing world. But before we get to the program, I have the honor of introducing the president of the University of Houston Downtown, Dr. Lauren Blanchard. Dr. Blanchard.
Thank you all so much, and thank you for being here today. You know, I always get excited by the President's Lecture Series. This is the 14th installment of our series, where we're really focusing on areas that matter not only to us here at the University of Houston Downtown, but matters to the city of Houston, and more importantly, connects us with the downtown district. As you well know, that one of the areas of focus for us is ensuring that we will deepen our ability to be an anchor institution to the city of Houston. And as we well know, that when you look at the downtown corridor, it is also recognized as the energy corridor, at least one of them, for the city of Houston. And so we want to find ways that we can not only connect more, but also show evidence that we've got individuals who have already graduated from the University of Houston Downtown, who's made that leap into that energy sector by virtue of the work that they are doing. I want to just share one quick quote with you that really, I think, lays the foundation for the importance of the conversation that we're going to have this afternoon. And that is, the energy sector protects natural resources, including a web of electricity, oil, and gas, ensuring sustainable energy and the overall health and wellness of our city, state, and nation. And so when you think about it from that perspective, I know that oftentimes when you think of energy and when you think of oil and gas, that the natural connection that you make is to the sciences. And yes, that is one connection, but there are many other connections as well that I'm sure that you're going to learn about from our three panelists today. So I also want to be among the first to welcome our three alums back to the campus. I don't know if it looks the same as it was when you were here. I hope that it does look a little different. And that more importantly, that always know that this is your home, and that we've got a lot of our students that are participating today in person and virtually as well. Do we have it? No one in the virtual world today. Oh, we are recording, all right, for future purpose. And so this really helps our students as well to really understand not only what you do, but the importance of their educational experience here today connected with how they can become leaders in the energy field. So I won't steal the thunder in terms of introducing the three of them because they're going to be introduced by, I think, our moderator. Is that right? Yep. And of course, our moderator who sits here is no stranger to us whatsoever. If you're in the College of Business, that we are always really pleased to have Dr. Davis not only lead, but also serve in this integral role today to help us to guide our conversation with our three panelists. So thank you for being here. Make sure and grab a lunch either before or after or during the session today. But more importantly, while you're eating your food, know that we're giving you great thoughts and perspectives today that I hope will nourish you as well. I'll turn it to Dr. Davis. Thank you very much, Dr. Davis, for serving as moderator.
Thank you, Dr. Blanchard. Ooh. So, and welcome to everyone here. It's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for our conversation today. So starting at my left, Susana Hernandez graduated from the University of Houston downtown with a BA in Communication Studies and is currently enrolled in the Executive Leadership Program at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania. She has 15 plus years of experience in the energy industry and has worked at the major oil and gas companies such as Chevron, BP, and Oxy. She currently works for Woodside Energy as a lead regulatory advisor and serves on the board of directors for the Women's Energy Network and the Girls Inc. of Houston. Suzanne is passionate about helping develop the youth of tomorrow and creating a pipeline of development and opportunity for young women. Jesus de la Seda is a senior contracts manager for Mexico Pacific. In his current role at Mexico Pacific, he is responsible for developing and establishing contract and procurement plans and strategies for the MEGA project, which is the LNG facility. Jesus has had other management positions with TC Energy, Apache, Anadarko, BP, and BHP, which is impressive. Jesus also serves as a corporate fellow for UHD's Maryland Davies College of Business and provides guidance and instruction to graduate students pursuing Master's in Business Administration degrees. Jesus received his BBA in Supply Chain Management with a minor in Marketing from UHD and also has an MBA and Master's in International Business from the University of St. Thomas. And finally, James Roseman is a senior benchmarking analyst at ExxonMobil and is responsible for researching, analyzing, and reporting on different trends and developing strategic and actionable recommendations. Prior to his work at ExxonMobil, James has also held management positions as a business process manager at Anheuser-Busch InBev and is the current past president for the Institute of Supply Management for Houston. That's our premier resource for supply chain professionals here in Houston. James also serves as a volunteer for En-ROADS, a national organization that helps college students find internships and train for a future in the professional world. James received his undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from Prairie View A&M University and his MBA in supply chain management here at UHD. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. All right, I'm going to dive right into the questions so we can get through them in the time that we have. So the first question really is basic. Just tell us about your story. What's that 2-minute elevator pitch about yourself that you would give? And I'll start with Susanna.
Okay, hello. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Blanchard, Dr. Davis, Jay, Dr. Alonso for having me here today. It's an honor. My name is Susana Hernandez, and I'm honored to be here today. Like you said, I received a Bachelor of Communications from this wonderful university. I have over 20 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. I consider myself an expert in deep water exploration and development. I help technical teams understand the regulatory framework and strategy in the country that we're operating. I ensure we obtain and maintain our license to operate. And also a big aspect of my role is advocacy. So I'm responsible for building, managing, and maintaining government relationships with the regulators and local policymakers. Something unique about what I do is that I am able to work on international projects. And I think that's something that I really love doing. I'm able to utilize my bilingual skill set across different projects.
Jesus.
All right, well, is it afternoon? Oh, close enough. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Jesus de la Cerda. I'm a proud alumni of UHD. I graduated from here last century. And I know I don't show it, but I did. And I'm proud to say my class ring still fits me 24 years later. There was a few period where it couldn't, but we fixed that. But anyway, again, proud alumni of UHD and proud a corporate fellow. And if you haven't taken Dr. Dietrich von Weinfeld's class, please do so. He's awesome. But again, my experience, like I said, 24 years since I graduated from this wonderful institution. It did not look like this. You should have seen in this place in the 90s. But again, I graduated in 1999, and we were partying like it was 1999 because it was 1999. So anyway, graduate from there, started out in tech, did 5 years in technology for a company that was Houston-based back in the day called Compact Computer. We later were acquired by Hewlett-Packard, HP. I cut my teeth again in technology for 5 years, being a buyer in a manufacturing site. They're building servers. I don't know if you guys know what a server is, but these 6-foot servers, that's what we built back in the day. And I did anything from buying boxes to labels to the the chassis to everything that came in it. So I learned a lot. So I'm grateful for that. Then after that, went to grad school, went to University of St. Thomas, did a couple master degrees there. Then I started going to in basically energy for BHP Billiton. Then moved on from there to BP. Then moved on from there to Anadarko Petroleum. And now I'm at a short stint at Apache, and now I'm at Mexico Pacific. So again, 11 years in management, 13 years as an individual contributor. Again, proud Houston local. I'm from here, which is rare in our industry, to be frank. Everybody's a transplant, but we're rare. I'm actually a local. But again, welcome, and hope we can share some knowledge from our combined decades of experience here.
Thank you, James.
So my name is James Rosemond, and I actually graduated from UHD with my MBA in 2018, December of 2018. And honestly, it's really amazing that even from that time, right, which isn't that long ago, I drive by and I'm like, oh, there's a new building. I'm like, oh, there's another new building. And I walked in and I'm like, man, the paint color's different. I mean, the changes just in that short time have been phenomenal. And my experience at UHD completely changed the trajectory of my life and my career. And so I'm honored to be here today just to speak to y'all.
All right, thank you all. Next question is really kind of in any order, but what led you into the energy industry? Was there a moment, an influence, a class, a person, some event? What led you in?
Well, for me, it was by accident, to be honest. So what led me into the energy, obviously, this is Houston, right? So we're the energy capital of the world. So sooner or later, you're going to do your time in energy. It's just a matter of time. So again, I started out in tech. When you graduate and you're 20-something and you're a little bit naive, you think, I'm going to do this for the next 30 years. Well, life happens, right? And your situation changes. For me, what had led me, my first energy job would be BHP Billiton. For me, it was meeting somebody through a mutual friend that they were looking for somebody to bring in as a supply chain, senior supply chain person. I did my time in manufacturing. Again, in the tech industry, which was a very fast-paced, learned a lot. But sadly, what happens is when you go to grad school and you think, I might get my MBA and they're going to pay me what I deserve, sometimes that doesn't happen. The company pays for your degree. They're like, well, congratulations, you paid for your degree. Here's a cake. Congratulations. And you're like, well, wait a minute, does this come with $20,000 more? No, but I hope you enjoy the cake. So what led me into energy was energy paid better, at least back then. And so luckily, through a mutual network, I was able to send my resume over and then start my energy career. And it's been, 18 plus years since, being in the energy field. So that's how I got in.
For me, it was my wife. I worked for Anheuser-Busch for a number of years, and I worked in high-speed manufacturing, and completely different than the energy sector. And I was actually sitting in the lounge. I was here, actually, when I got the first phone call, the first interview, to interview with ExxonMobil. And I actually didn't apply for that job. My wife did. I'm from Houston, just like Jesus, and I understand, and my dad works in energy, and I've seen my entire life the undulation that can happen in the industry, and I actually purposely avoided it. And so when my wife, applied for that job, I talked to the gentleman, Rod Jerome, fantastic guy, and he invited me to come to campus to talk about a career with ExxonMobil. And when I got to campus, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'd never seen anything like it. It looked like something out of like Google or Amazon. It's got so many buildings. There's a Chick-fil-A. It's awesome. And I remember when I got home, I told my wife that, man, like if they offered me a job, like I'm gonna take it. Like the opportunity was so amazing. And so why did I take the opportunity? Well, because at the end of the day, home is Houston for me. And I had opportunities to go other places. I've had opportunities to do other things. But if you're working in the energy sector, all roads almost always lead back to Houston in some way, shape, or form. So even if you go out and you go explore and you go to the Middle East, you go to Africa, you go wherever, it doesn't matter. It's always going to lead back to Houston. And honestly, the opportunities, because it's so predominant here, you can do anything in energy, right? So this is actually an outdated title, right? Senior benchmarking analyst. And it's not that outdated. I changed like a month ago. But I changed to be the U.S. terminal advisor. And so now there's material, there's products that we have that are sitting in the big tanks that you see, like when you go toward Deer Park or LaPorte. All that product in those tanks, while they're owned by different, the tank farms are owned by different companies, right? Those are all products that, are from Exxon, Chevron, and so on and so forth. And so I'm managing our ins and outs going all over the country, some of it going all over the world for those products. And I did that coming from benchmarking, right? Completely unrelated, but just the fact that I was in the company, they said, hey, I think that, based on your previous experience, this might be a good opportunity for you. So it really gave me the opportunity to run the gamut of all the different areas that you could work, right? Some people work in finance. The energy sector is just so big and broad. You can honestly do anything there. I know people that work in technology there. And so, even though my wife got me into it, I'm really glad she did.
Thank you. I would just like to briefly point out that we, too, have multiple buildings and a Chick-fil-A. So we're doing well.
And a Starbucks.
And a Starbucks.
Okay, thank you. So mine's a little bit different from James and Jesus. I actually started my senior year in high school. We had a co-op program, and so what it was is you would go to school. I took 2 electives in the morning, and in the afternoons, I traveled downtown, and I worked for Lyondell at the time. And I worked for about 5 hours. They had a supervisor, and at the end of the semester, you would receive a grade. So that's how I got my foot in the door. Then I started university here at U of H downtown, and I started working in the Dean of Student Affairs office. And the dean was Ann McDonald at the time. And she did 1-year terms, and my term was just about to be up, and I got a call from Lyondell. They needed someone to help with an HR project, and that is how it began, and I just never left. One opportunity led to another, to another, to another, and I just learned to say yes.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good principle. Say yes when those opportunities appear. Yeah. So, I mean, particularly the students in the room, as they enter their careers, will be full of hope and expectation about the future, but they'll also inevitably encounter difficulties and roadblocks. So, could you talk about those roadblocks that you've encountered, and what have been those hardest points in your career that you think have shaped your experience?
I'll jump in on that one. So again, 18 years in the energy field. You go through a lot of ups and downs. One thing that, and I remember, back in '86 here in Houston, when oil crashed and you had engineers busting tables. It got really, really bad back then in the '80s. Some of you guys probably weren't even born back then. I was 10 years old, so I remember I saw that, right? And we had a restaurant back in the day, and I could see it. So That scared a lot of people off, and for a generation, oil and gas or energy did not hire, really. So then when I jumped in 05, 04, 05, people started retirement age, and like, well, wait a minute, we got nobody to backfill them. So then they really started at that point hiring people, and from, I'm proof of it, different industries to come on in and again, learn, because a lot of people, there was gonna be what was called the great cruise shift was starting to occur, where people that have been doing this job for 20, 30 plus years were now entering retirement age, and there's nobody to backfill them, right, with that experience. This is in the mid-2000s. And so that's when I jump in, coming from tech, into the energy. If you do want to get into energy, and I got news for you. I mean, oil and gas, renewables is big, but I'll be frank, in our lifetime, we will still need fossil fuels. That's just the reality. That's just the truth. We're trying to, again, not go relieve our dependence on it, but for most, especially for my lifetime, we're still going to need it, so you still need good energy, good paying jobs. And trust me, we really do care about the environment. Contrary to what's published out there, we do so many steps to try to protect the environment. It's really something that I came right after the Exxon Valdez and the Texas City events. Energy had a bad rap when I joined in. But trust me, after you see behind the curtain, no, we do. There's so many things that we do to try to protect our world. So, if you do decide to join into energy, which I highly recommend, I spent most of my career in energy. Remember these words: "This too shall pass." So sometimes, when times are good, we got Maroon 5 playing our Christmas party. When times are bad, and that's literally at Anaroca, we had Maroon 5 playing our Christmas party. When times are bad, when oil drops, we're brown bagging it. No Christmas party this year. And again, in 18 years, I've seen several cycles, right? And survived them all. I'm still standing. But I'm telling you, this too shall pass. It's temporary. So if you do have a career in energy, you're going to go through some tough times. It's going to happen. Oil isn't always going to stay at $75 or $100 a barrel. It's going to drop. And you just got to learn to basically weather those storms. And again, hang in there. This too shall pass. There'll be opportunities that open up for you. And just like James says, maybe you're doing one job today. Tomorrow you do a different job, right? And you grow in it. Just hang in there. It's a good industry to be in. It's an amazing industry to be in. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to see how the world works. You're going to see the impact and what this world needs in terms of energy. I don't care what it is, oil, gas, LNG, renewables. It's amazing that this industry runs the world. I know the Googles, the Apples, they get a lot of the press, but trust me, what runs the world is the energy industry. It's a great industry, but hang in there. That's probably my big advice. And learn. Don't be afraid to learn. And please don't lie. Your reputation takes an instant to destroy and years to rebuild. If you do not know something, please, it's okay to say, I don't know, but let me find out. The worst thing you could do is pretend like you know, and then you discover that you don't know what you're talking about, and now you're going to develop a reputation. You don't want to do that. It's okay to say you don't know, but also show the effort of I'm going to go find out for you. That'd be my advice.
Okay, I'll go next. So I'll be very open with you. I have been in the industry for 15 plus years. That sounds better than 20. Early in my career, I did encounter things such as gender bias. There was limited representation in their leadership positions. There was a non-inclusive culture. I mean, those were things that I experienced 15 plus years ago, but I'm so happy to say that has changed significantly over the past few years. I mean, there are so many women and people of color in leadership roles in our companies. It's incredible to see. As an example, the CEO at my company, she's not only a female, but she's also part of the LGBTQ plus community, which is, would have been unheard of 20 years ago.
Before I get started, I do want to tack on to something that Jesus said. And, we talk about kind of the energy transition and renewables. Honestly, energy companies, as we look at them, traditional energy companies are still really involved in that transition, right? So they call us fossil fuels, and fair, but at the end of the day, wind turbines, they still need lubricants. I make lubricants for wind turbines, right? Solar panels, we opened a brand new factory or plant in just outside of Corpus Christi, Texas, in Gregory, Texas, called GCGV. It's the Global Ventures Growth Project. One of the things that we make is the base stock to make solar panels, right? We are now going to operate like the biggest lithium mine in the country in Arkansas, and lithium is a key ingredient to batteries for electric cars, right? We're part of the change. And we're part of the future. Obviously, we're part of the past, but we also have the scale to be able to help accelerate that change as well, right? So I'm glad you mentioned that, but I did want to add that on. 2020 I think was kind of my first exposure to the cycles of oil and gas. But I'd been exposed to it in other industries before. But one of the biggest things that I can tell you, and it doesn't matter whether you're energy or not, is around resiliency, right? Being resilient. And just because, last year Shania Twain was playing and this year we're going to have to brown bag it, you have to understand that, right? And you can't say, I don't want to be here anymore because now I got a brown bag and we don't have Shania Twain. Like, you have to be understanding, and you have to be a team member and say, hey, look, we're all tightening our belts. We're all going to have to do a little bit more than we did in the past. And you got to tighten up your belt, and you got to buckle down and do it. You have to be resilient. So one of the big things that I saw is that even though you had people who were high achievers, you had people who the company had big plans for, right? A lot of companies came in and snatched those people up because all of a sudden we were in bad times, and then tech companies, particularly tech companies, were in good times, and they were hiring hand over fist. And I mean, they hired all sorts of people from the energy industry. And then earlier this year, they started laying them off, right? So, everything goes through its cycles. When one industry is up, another industry is down. Some people are going to take advantage of that, but be resilient, because, if you stay with someone and you show them that resiliency, and you show them that you're willing to put in the effort and you're willing to fight for it just like they are, you get rewarded at the end. Right? And honestly, when those other people leave, they create a void, and they create opportunity for people that are still there.
Oh, thank you. So as a follow-up, I kind of heard on that answer various things. I heard about tightening your belt and being resilient and understanding the cycles and all that. So in terms of those tough times, what's your advice on actually preparing for them, knowing that they're going to come?
Save your money. And I'll give you a little bit of financial advice as well, because I think this is something very important that usually is not taught at high schools or universities. Have you guys heard of the 70-10-10-10 rule? Okay. So the 70-10-10-10 rule is you live off of 70% of what you make. That's your budget. For example, you make $100,000, you live off of 70. That's your budget. 10% you invest, 401k, real estate. 10% you save, savings, a rainy day fund. And 10% you give, right? Always give back. Because I don't care how poor you are here in the States, or middle class in other countries. And not only that, but if you want to go back 100, 200 years, the poorest person today has a better standard of living than kings and queens had 100, 200 years ago. So that's just a historical fact. But if you follow that very simple 70-10-10-10 rule, you'll be fine. You'll weather that storm. Because, you'll need a brand bag. Your 30% bonus, your 40% bonus is now maybe 5, and no raise. That happens. That stuff happens. And again, if you're counting on that, if you're like Griswold counting on that bonus every year, it's a bonus. That's why they call it a bonus, right? So be prepared. Don't live la vida loca and take showers with Evian or Dasani. No, save your money, and this too shall pass, right? And you'll get through it, right? A household needs to be ran like a corporation. You'd run it, have that financial discipline, and if you have that financial discipline, you'll weather those tough times. And then when the good times come, hey, party like it's 1999.
Just to add to what Jesus says, I agree. Be smart with your money. Maybe possibly live below your means if you can. I see the value in staying loyal to a company, but I also see the value in growing your network, meeting people, because just like they're calling it bad times. Bad times could equate to layoffs. I mean, that's something that's common in our industry. So it's good to have your connections up to date so that you can always, just pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm available. Do you need help?
That's great.
And the other thing I also want to add is, just to piggyback on that, don't turn down interviews. Now, don't get me wrong. If it's an interview to be sell knives door to door, yeah, sorry, but no. But if it's something within your field, accept it. Because even if it's not an ideal job, it's practice. You're practicing for when you do have that dream job interview and you're ready, you're sharp, and you're polished. Versus you go in it a little bit cold, then you might not get the job. Because remember, the resume gets you the interview gets you the job, right? So the more practice, how to get a Carnegie Hall? Practice, right? You got to practice. So accept those interviews and practice when the real one comes. Yeah, so that's a good point.
I got so caught up in what they were saying. What was the question again?
Yeah, how do you prepare for tough times?
How do you prepare for the tough times? Okay. So the 70-10-10, that got me. The personally, right, saving, being prepared, not forgetting that rainy day is potentially going to come. I know it's hard when you're fresh out of college, right? And so for me, I didn't practice the 70-10-10-10, but I continued to live like I was fresh out of school. So when I got that first job and I got that salary, the next time I got a raise, I acted as if I still got that exact same salary. And I continued to live as close to that as I could, right? As I expanded in my career and I continued to get raises, I continued to try to live like I was 22. And I think that was really helpful. Because if you don't prepare for that rainy day, it does make it very challenging that if you are in a situation that you don't want to be in anymore, that you can't explore all the opportunities that you could because you say, I have to have this amount of money just so that I can live, right? You can't explore that $80,000 opportunity if you need $100,000 to live. And then you kind of get stuck at a job that you don't want to be at, and then you just, that's not living anymore. You're surviving. And so, yes, it's really important to, rainy times or not, just to be prepared and to be able to leave yourself the opportunity to move if you feel like you need to move.
Thank you for that. So, who has been your biggest role model in your career?
I know his name. His name is Mr. Tom Sims. Mr. Tom Sims, he's currently a VP of supply chain at Hess Corporation, which now got acquired by Chevron. You know Tom? Tom is my mentor and former boss. I first worked with Tom back in my BP days. He's the one that took me from BP to Anadarko. A great move for me, family-wise and career-wise. So he inspired me because he is, number one, he's smart, right? But more important, he taught me something that there's two things that make all of us up. He said head and heart. Heart is what your mama taught you, right? You grew up with those, you respect your elders. You say yes, ma'am. You say no, ma'am. You say yes, sir, no, sir. Heart, that's what you learned at a young age. Head is what you're here doing, right? You're sharpening your head. You learn, you go to grad school, you go to all this stuff. Now, I could teach you head, right? You don't know accounting, I could go get an accounting major. I can't teach you heart. Heart is what you have already. Now, what trumps what? Heart trumps head, always. Because again, you could be the smartest person in the room, but if you got a bad attitude, nobody's going to want to work with you. You got a great attitude. Maybe you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, but you're great. You're always willing to learn. You're willing. You're a hard worker. That's going to get you very hireable. Because again, you may be brilliant, but man, if you're toxic, you don't know how to work with people, you have a huge ego, not going to get you very far. He's the one that taught me that those are the two things when we're looking at an applicant, when we're looking at interviewing people, head and heart. Now, don't get me wrong, you need some head, right? If you don't know basic math, I can't help you. But that we could learn, we could work with if you got the heart that replaces that. So, kudos to Mr. Tom Sims.
I can go because I remember the question. So.
Role models.
It was actually similar with someone that I'd worked with, and his name is Damola Ocean, and he was not specifically my mentor, but I got to a point in my career where I felt like I was starting to get passed over for opportunities. I would see people that were coming behind me who, whether I was right or wrong, they looked a lot different than I did, and they seemed to be accelerating, even though we seemed to be putting out maybe the same output, and maybe even potentially mine was a little bit better. But I saw Damola come, and he led through he led through action, right? He led by example, and so by seeing him accelerate and seeing how he operated, just seeing how he carried himself. It made a big impact on me. And so at the end of the day, what Damola showed me is that if you are the best, you will succeed. Whether it be with that company, that opportunity, whatever. If you are the best, you will succeed. So strive to be the best at all times. And if somebody knocks you down, you get up and you fight back and you keep going. You can't ever give up and let the opposition win. In the sense that you got knocked down, you say, okay, I didn't get that opportunity, and now I'm just gonna coast, right? He taught me to keep fighting, and he never talked to me about it. He just showed me by example, and it was really, really pivotal. He was the reason I went to get my MBA. He was the reason I left Anheuser-Busch, and now I'm at ExxonMobil, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it, and I've had great opportunities since then. Between him and the Maryland Davies College of Business, changed the trajectory of my life. And of course, my wife calling ExxonMobil.
Exactly, I was gonna say, don't forget your wife.
She never lets me forget that.
And that reminds me of an old Chinese proverb, fall 6 times, get up 7. Keep getting up.
Great examples, guys. I think for me, mentorship is, I have several mentors. I've always had mentors. I mean, there's 3 mentors in the room today, Liza, Carol, and Gabby. I know there's a strategic way to choose your mentors, right, when you're in your career, and I have those. And I'm also part of the mentorship committee for the Women's Energy Network, so I love to mentor as well. But if I'm very honest with you, I'll take it back to when I was a child, and my role model was my grandmother. She instilled work ethic, the importance of working hard, and morals and values. And that's something that no one can take away.
It goes back to that heart comment you were talking about. That's where it's formed. I'll just take a point of privilege here and just point out that mentors, in my experience, teach us in 2 ways. One, they teach us how to do the things that they do well and kind of get us going in our careers, and that's kind of the main thing that we all think about when we think of mentors. But what they also do is they model mentorship. And teach us, hopefully, that as we become at their level later in our careers, it's incumbent on us to become the mentors that they were for us. And I can hear that in each of your answers as well. So thank you. So in your career, what business community resources have helped you achieve success? I'm thinking things like networks or affinity groups or other kinds of institutions that have helped you get along.
Back in the day, it was called NAPM, but now it's ISM. But yes, I mean, whatever your degree is, finance has a professional association. I'm in supply chain. Supply chain has a professional association. get in line with those associations. I got my first job at Compaq Computer because I attended an NAPM meeting, right, as a student, and I sat in the same table with people from Compaq, and introduced myself, and that's how I got. Well, actually, Dr. Kaufman, who was here, he was an old professor here. He was one of them that said, "You guys got to go. Students get in for dirt cheap." Went there. Dr. Kaufman is sitting at the next table. I see this lady reach over and said, "Hey, Dr. Kaufman, we're going to start hiring in the next month. If you have any good students, please recommend them." And I just said, "I'm a good student." And then, "Oh, really? What's your name?" And then Dr. Kaufman saw me. He said, "Oh, yeah, he's a good one." And she said, "Oh, well, here, email your resume." And he taught us, again, UHD. You guys are getting great education, by the way. Great education. They say, "Hey, be ready, right? Always be prepared, right? Be a Boy Scout. Always be prepared." I had my resume out with me. He said, "Bring your resume. You never know." I said, she goes, "Email me your resume." I said, "I have my resume right now." "Oh, really? Well, let me look at it." She said, "Okay, well then, send me this electronically, and well, the rest is history." And I got hired like 2 weeks later. I mean, that's how I started. So again, through UHD, professors, mentorship, guidance, go to these meetings, went to that meeting, got hired within a month, right? So I highly say, go to those, and get certifications as well, because a lot of these associations offer certifications in your specific field. Learn those as well. But yes, I highly promote getting affiliated with any of those associations, because I'm living proof that they work and it helps.
I heard be prepared and say yes to things. Just
to piggyback on what he said, right? So the Institute for Supply Management. So last program year, I was the president for the Institute for Supply Management. I joined the Institute of Supply Management as I was a student here, because first of all, I got a student membership, and it was really, really cheap. And it's honestly where I also met his mentor, Tom Sims, who is on the executive advisory board for ISM today. So beyond just being part of it and going to the meetings, the networking is really critical, but take opportunities to take leadership in these types of organizations as well. And there's a couple reasons I say that. So for one, if you're new in your career, you don't have a lot of leadership, right, that you can put on your resume. You don't have a lot of things that you can point to. If you're leading committees in these nonprofit organizations, that's something else that you can actually add to your resume. It's also experience, right, beyond just being a resume builder. But also from a networking perspective, it also helps really improve those networks. I can call Tom Sims. I can call the Dave Allens of the world. And if push came to shove, I could probably get a job pretty quickly because I've developed those networks and I've worked with those people, right? So they don't just know me from just anecdotal. They've seen my work because I participate heavily in the organization. And when I was the president of ISM Houston, when they talked to me about being the president, I thought about, oh man, like there's all this stuff I got to do. I got to go talk to all these people, and I got to go schmooze, and I got to do all these things. And I thought about what I had to put into the organization in that role. But the truth is, I gained so much more because of the folks that I'm working with, right? So, a lot of people who get involved with these boards, they're very, very senior. A lot of them are retired. I'm leading a 1,000-person nonprofit organization, and my right-hand man is a retired VP from Kinder Morgan. It's somebody who worked at KBR, right? And they were high-level leading global organizations. And so, I'm talking to them. I'm learning from them, not just how to manage a team of 10. I'm learning how to run an organization of 1,000 because they ran organizations of 1,000, and they're there to support me now. And so, it was such a fantastic opportunity. I made lifelong friends out of that, and it was all because I chose to serve. And look at what I got out of serving, right? So, don't just take the opportunity to go and network. Seek out opportunities to lead in organizations. And that also, gives back to the community as well.
Yes. So I'm a part of WEN, Women's Energy Network. I am on the board of directors. I didn't just obtain that. You kind of have to work your way up. So I've been involved with WEN for probably 10 plus years. I'm also on the board for Girls Inc. And I'm also very involved with a lot of the employee impact groups at my company, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But I'm thinking of how you can benefit from this. So like, when the Women's Energy Network, we have events, programs that you can be a part of now. One of them is called Young Women's Energized, and they put on an event. I think we do something with HCC every year. That's one way you can get involved. There's young professionals in energy. I think it's YPE, right? They also have programs similar to that. So if you're interested, please reach out. I'm sure any of us can help you.
All right, thank you. Talk to us in your experience about the mindset that you need to have to be successful in your industry.
Yeah, the mindset would be, again, there's an old Bruce Lee saying, which is said, be water, my friend. He wrote a whole, it's almost like a poem. But bottom line, what he's saying is, because he says, okay, if you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water in the river, it becomes the river. What he's saying is be flexible, be adaptable. So that's the mindset you gotta have to be successful, and not just in energy, but in any career, really. In life, be flexible, be adaptable, right? Go with the flow, learn as much as if you can. Don't be very rigid, and set in your ways. The one certainty in life is change. And just remember, what is life? Life is 10% what happens and 90% how you react to it, right? Stuff is gonna happen, and not all of it good, unfortunately. And you'll learn this the older you get. But 90% is how you react to it. How do you react to it? Do you learn from it? And you can learn from everything. Find the silver lining, focus on the silver lining, and then adapt and keep moving forward. And what I always tell people is, God gave us eyes in the front of our heads, not the back of our heads, because he wants us to keep looking forward, not backwards. So just keep moving forward.
That's great advice, Jesus. Just to add to what he just mentioned, have a positive mindset, be open-minded, be prepared to be humble too. Say yes often and learn to view challenges as opportunities.
I say never waste a good crisis, right? So, when everything is kind of going wrong, take that opportunity to do as much as you can as other people are potentially shirking away from that opportunity. That can really help set you apart when you're kind of comparing yourself against your peers. For me, that was that's always I never say no to a challenge. I don't look at challenges as challenges. I look at them as opportunities, just as Susanna alluded to, and just be flexible. I mean, really, both of what they said is just it's 100% true. You're working with so many different types of people. Like I mentioned at first, right? The industry is so broad. You're working with people who are engineers and people that are in procurement and people who are potentially having to move this product or material, right? It's so many different people with different ways of looking at things, just being flexible, kind of understanding the various points of view, because everybody's opinion, everybody's input is important in helping ensure that you actually get to where the company needs to go. So being flexible, being understanding, not shirking away from challenges that are actually opportunities.
That's great. So thinking back now, if you met your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
That's a wonderful question, because in 2 weeks, I'm going to be proud father of a 20-year-old. So yeah, it comes very, very timely. So I look back when I was 20 years old, and I was here, right? I was in my second semester here at UHD. Not knowing, first generation, my parents didn't go to college. My parents were immigrants. I was first generation born here in the United States. They didn't have the first generation tags that you guys get now, which are very nice, by the way. They didn't have that back in the 90s. But anyway, what I would tell my 20-year-old self is keep doing what you're doing, right? Because I look back at what I was doing when I was 20, and this is almost 28 years ago. Keep doing what you're doing. Enjoy your 20s. But that's one thing I will stress to you guys. Enjoy your 20s. I know we're talking, this is business and all that good stuff, but learn to have fun. Life goes by so fast. You think, the days are long in your 20s. Believe me, they're not. They're going to go by so fast. Enjoy your 20s. That's what I tell everybody. In your 20s, have a good time. Take risks, calculated risks, but have a good time. Because again, what happens later on, you're going to be married, you're going to have a mortgage, you're going to have kids, you got to worry about college fund. All that stuff is going to happen, and it's going to happen. But enjoy your 20s, enjoy your youth. Just like, was it Nirvana that said that? No, Pearl Jam said that. Enjoy your youth. Enjoy your youth. Have a good time. Be responsible, but also think about the future, right? And be willing to sacrifice today what you want tomorrow, right? Sacrifice who you are today, and when you're 20, you're, still learning for who you want to be tomorrow, right? You want to be a professional. You want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be whatever, right? You want to be a millionaire. You got to put in the time. You got to put in the work. So be willing to do that. But at the same time, have fun. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy. That is very true. Learn to have a good time. And again, and don't be too serious. Don't take life too serious. Life is a precious gift. Have a good time. Enjoy it. And if you can, invest in the right things. And then you'll see, you'll get there.
I love that. Just to add to what you just mentioned, I would also say be kind to yourself. You might think you have this linear path, and you might think you may have it figured out, but I think life will throw curveballs, and I think it's the way that you receive them that's gonna count. So I would say just be kind to yourself, and learn to enjoy your 20s, just like Jesus said.
So, for me personally, I got started pretty early with a family and things like that. So, I got married when I was like 23, 24. I was 24. But I think one of the things that I did was I really had, between undergrad and starting a family and starting to build a career, at some point I kind of stopped learning, actively learning. Of course, I learned how to do my job. I learned how to pay my mortgage. I learned things, but I stopped active learning. I stopped growing in a sense, and I got really kind of stagnant. And so, my advice to my 20-year-old self is kind of, try to avoid that if you can, right? Don't become stagnant. I'm not saying don't do all of those important life things, but once you start having kids, once you start having a routine, it becomes a lot harder to say, hey, I'm going to go seek these active learning opportunities. And those active learning opportunities is what's going to help keep you viable. It's going to help keep you sharp. It's going to help you grow in your career. But then also, leading by example, that's something I also want my kids to see. I don't want them to see, daddy just comes home and sits down and watches TV for all the evening, right? So it's also important for the next generation as well. So if I gave advice to my 20-year-old self is don't have that, 5 years of kind of stagnation that I had. Continue to grow. Always continue to grow. And it really doesn't matter what your age is. You always want to continue to grow.
Gather ye rosebuds while you may. I like it. So what is, kind of on the same topic, what is the one piece of advice you would give members of our audience today?
In Spanish, we got a saying, échale ganas, right? Ganas means, grit, get in there, right? And that'd be my point is échale ganas. You can do it. Always believe in yourself. You can rely on anybody not believing in you, your brothers, your sisters, your parents. The one person you cannot afford to not believe in you is you. You got to believe in yourself. Be confident. I went to UHD. I work, and I'm sure everybody else works. I work with people that went to MIT, went to Harvard, went to Yale. I'm here to tell you, there's no difference between you and them. Zero. You're getting a much less expensive education than them, but as far as the quality, no. You guys have made a wise decision going to UHD. Most of y'all will graduate without debt, versus a lot of those yahoos going to these big name schools. They're going to be paying for that debt. We're going to have to forgive their debt in another year or whatever. Not you guys. You guys have made a wise decision. So be confident in the university you guys are going through. You guys are getting a quality education. We're living proof of it right here on the stage. Believe in yourself and believe in your capabilities. And what I always tell high school kids, because I also go talk to high school kids, if you believe, you will achieve. Believe.
I would say build your network, make connections, build relationships, volunteer, take volunteer opportunities if they're given to you. Reach out to me, reach out to anyone on the panel. We're happy to help. But I think having a strong allyship is very important. And so, yeah.
So my advice to you is the same advice I give to myself, right? It's never stop that growth mindset. But then also just one thing to keep in mind, if somebody's paying you a lot of money to do something, there's a reason for it, right? It's probably going to be really challenging. It's probably that a lot of people don't want to do it. And so you just have to be kind of aware of that. I think one of the things that I do see when people are first starting their careers, they have these really lofty goals of like, this is how quickly I'm going to move up. This is how I'm going to do this. They have this really specific timeline that they're working with, and when that doesn't happen, or if it gets really challenging, they start to get down, or they start looking to move around, and then it's good to move around. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but if you're bouncing around kind of every year, maybe you need to do a little bit of introspection and say that maybe I'm not quite finding the right type of opportunity, or I'm not giving it enough time to work.
And I second that. You got to learn to walk before you can run. You got to learn to crawl before you can walk. So you got to pay your dues. Understand about paying your dues, learning, get to know, and yes, definitely build your network. There's an old saying that says, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's both. It's both. It's what you know, but it's also who you know as well. So both are important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you made it, because there is a game aspect to it, right? I know nobody likes to say, oh, there's just a game. There's some gamesmanship to being successful, right? It's not just about the results. Just saying that I did it and here it is and they're going to recognize it because it's there, that's not necessarily true. Sometimes you have to make sure that you're saying, hey, look at what I did. Isn't this awesome? Put it in a pretty presentation and show it to people, right? Don't be afraid. Don't be too humble. Be humble, but don't be too humble, right? Make sure that you get recognized for your accomplishments, because nobody's just going to recognize you just because you did it.
Great advice. Be advocates for oneself. Absolutely. So I'll do a call back to President Blanchard's remarks at the beginning, talking about how important it is to have events like these and people like you, alums who are professionals and successful, making contact with students, staff, and faculty here, and it's vital to us. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important to you as alumni to be here today?
Well, I'll tell you, because I grew up Northside Houston, about 4 miles from here. I used to take Metro bus to school, to and from. So to me, local Houstonian, this was my local university. U of H was a little bit further down, so I said, I'll go to UHD. Had to take a bus transfer. I didn't want to take a bus transfer. So anyway, so to me it's important because UHD was, again, my local school. I came here all 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior. And I've constantly given to the university. Don't forget the university, but when you guys are rich and successful, remember where you come from. UHD is a very special place for me because I was also a student worker here for 2.5. I was at the physical plant downstairs. I think it's called facilities management. I worked there for 2 years, 2.5. So not only did I come to school here, I was a study worker. I met my wife here. Met her on the third floor in the bookstore. And we've been married 20 years. So, even that is an achievement. I'll stand with that. So again, met my wife here. All of my brothers are alumni as well. My wife even came back a couple years back, got her master's in arts and teaching. She's now a teacher for Outing ISD. So UHD is very special to me. I mean, it's been talk about changing the trajectory of my life. UHD changed that trajectory. That's why it's very special to me to come back, be a corporate fellow, give to the university, because I think this place does change lives. And to me, and I think we made it on some list where as far as social mobility, UHD is huge in social mobility. I'm living proof of that. I mean, my parents were waiters making $3 an hour in the 90s. Not much for they couldn't even spell 529. They don't know what a college fund was, right? That's why this university gives opportunities to people that usually you wouldn't get that opportunity, but you're getting quality education. And again, it's transformative. It will change your life. So don't just stop at undergrad. Get a master's. Why not? And maybe someday we'll do PhDs here. I don't know. But that's why UHD is very special. It's a special university in Houston. And again, that's why I'm here. So whenever I've done several of these over the last 24 years. And I keep doing it because, again, I feel I have a very strong connection with the school. So whenever the school contacts me and says, can you do this? I just say when. So, yeah, it's very special.
I agree. The University of Houston is very special. It's offered me, this was my stepping stone onto my career. I, just like Dr. Blanchard said, I do consider this home. Some of my best friends work here. And so I love coming back. I love visiting. Sometimes I come and sit here and read, actually. But I also like to attend the events and help how I can and give back in any way that I can, whether it's donating, whether it's being a part of the Alumni Association, whether it's accepting invitations from Liza. Yeah, I agree. You guys are very fortunate. This is a wonderful university, and it's like James and Jesus mentioned before, you're getting a quality education. There's things that I learned here that I still apply to work today, so.
I mean, for me, the reason I like to do things like this is like Jesus mentioned, I wasn't just the first person in my family to graduate college. I was the first person to graduate high school. I had no blueprint. I had nothing to work with. We were trying to figure out. We did a FAFSA, and there was this code. It was called the EFC code. But it wasn't a code. It was expected family contribution. But we didn't know anything. I mean, we knew nothing. I didn't even know that even after they said, hey, this is what your expected family contribution was, and that was more than the tuition cost, I didn't know I still could have applied for government assistance because my parents didn't have that money. I don't know what they were talking about. We didn't have that money. And so, just being able to say, hey, look, guys, I may not know the right path, but I can certainly tell you what my experience was, and don't go behind door number 2. Just being able to do that and just be able to say, hey, I know what it's like. I've been there. I've had ups and downs, and this is what my experience was, and this is what I did. Being able to share that with y'all so that y'all have somewhat of a blueprint is like really important to me.
Well, thank you all for fairly succinctly expressing our values that you'll find in our vision and mission here at UHD. And to all the panelists, thank you for sharing your journeys in your professional careers and your stories with us today. kind of as I mentioned before, please stay in touch with us as we move forward. We need you in your involvement in our students and the programs that we put on here. Your contribution adds to what we do and enriches the lives of everyone here on campus. So thank you for that. Please stay in touch with us. And thank you to everyone here who's joined us for today's discussion. I think this has been truly enlightening about careers in energy and the twists and turns and pitfalls and the successes and glories that may await all of us who choose to dive into it. This concludes the 15th installment of the University of Houston Downtown's President's Lecture Series. So thank you all very much.